Hello, I am making this city building game on a randomly generated level. This is still very early in development, but I wanted to share a little bit about how I implemented the level generation and how I came up with my own art style. For the base of the level generation, I am following this tutorial by Sebastian Lach. So what this does, it gives us a height map based on a couple of parameters which we are able to modify. So each pixel has a different height, and depending on this height we can assign it a terrain type. So for example, mountains are at the highest points of the height map and water is at the lowest point of the height map. Then I have my own hexagonal grid system, but basically what I'm doing here is for each pixel I am just spawning a hexagon object to the corresponding coordinate in the level. So that we can add objects to the level, we have this configuration where we can set a random chance for each terrain type. So for example, on the grass we can add an object leaf tree, which has a chance of, let's say, 40% to spawn. And this is iterated during the map generation and uses the same seed, so we can guarantee that it's always going to be the same result. For my art style, I am doing these low polygon meshes in Blender and of course following some tutorials on how to create trees, but so these are a lot more to the scale of the game that I'm looking for. One of the goals of this project is to get better at Blender, and I will be improving these assets as I go. Next, to add foliage, it uses the same logic that we saw on the objects. The only difference is that these don't really affect the gameplay at all and have a random position within the hexagon. But then there is this one really important thing still missing: animals. So let's hop back into Blender and make this gorgeous low polygon sheep and make a script that gives it some movement. We have some random interval when the sheep picks a random point inside the inner circle of the hexagon. But hey, something happened. All the sheep are escaping from the hexagons. What the fuck? I think my mistake here was that I added sheep before I added a shepherd into the game. Well, the truth is that I was using world space coordinates when I was supposed to be using local coordinates. One way to avoid doing animations is just to do these kind of hopping animations. Then let's implement some graphics settings so that this can run on my laptop, because I don't really have any friends and I need to play this multiplayer somehow anyway. The graphics settings are basically these universal render pipeline asset presets, which have these settings like shadows that we can control. And for the more stylistic graphics, I wanted toon shading, so I chose to use this flat kit asset, which gives it with a lot of options. You can find some tutorials online, but I think this saved a lot of my time. I also tried stealing some of the stylized trees from this asset pack's demo scenes, but I ran into this problem that all of these trees were like 10,000 triangles, and I ended up with tens of millions of triangles in my scene. So always be wary when you are lazy and start stealing assets. So I deleted that shit and I got this quad mesh billboard shader, which does some really high performance trees that sway still in the wind and do look very nice. Then I thought we were missing grass, so maybe it's still a little bit plain, it's not green enough, it's not nature enough. So I went into Blender and tried doing grass like this, and it's a disaster. So after this failure, I decided I'm not going to touch grass anytime soon. Then I also realized this performance problem. So I had these icons that you can turn on, especially when you place buildings that show symbols on the screen. Like you see that trees are here, water is here, and well, obvious. So these were using Unity's canvas system in the UI world space with a billboard script. And what that does is, because it updates the transform of the canvas, it flags the canvas as dirty, and what happens is the performance, the FPS drops to half. So I need to either come up with some kind of billboard shader for Unity UI. I go into the internet, I try to find this code because I can't write that code. I put it into Unity, it doesn't work. Oi, oi, oi. So I just replace these with sprites. We also need to figure out how the buildings are supposed to look in this game. So this is my first iteration of Lumber Mill, and it's dark, it's gloomy, it's what I'm looking for. Also, because the buildings are using the Flatkit shader, Toon shader, it comes up with this outline property out of the box. So I am able to do this outline when I hover or when I do building placements. And this is what it's looking like right now as I'm recording this video. So I kind of changed the mesh on the hexagon to have this kind of corner, and I also found some normals on the grass, so I don't have to, touch grass anymore, and I think it looks a lot better. Still coming up with these buildings, and at least I think I'm getting closer to being where I want to be on the graphics side. But hey, hopefully you found this interesting. Maybe you learned something, maybe you found some tutorials if you're a game developer, I don't know. But thanks for watching, and I'm going to post my next video, which is going to be more about the actual gameplay and design. I don't know when that's going to come out, but yeah, anyways, goodbye.